I'm Bob Greenberg, W2CYK. You guys have probably seen me around the ham fests and whatever. I don't make it to meetings very often because I live out in Wading River, and a lot of times I'm like just out and about traveling around anyway to various ham fests. So sometimes I'm not around much. Although the last year, obviously, I've been sitting in this 4 by 3 meter room, and I've been stuck here until I finally went to Mexico last week. Thank God, and had a great time. So anyway, so thanks a lot for having me in, and uh, and Richie, thanks a lot for supporting this, and let's keep it interactive. You guys can raise your hand and ask a question. I'm going to tell you a little bit about each of the things that we're doing or have done, and just kind of give you a quick overview, and then you guys can ask as many questions as you want. So. Um, Anyway, so as Richie mentioned, we started out years ago, back in 2010, creating a repeater directory. And I had realized a long time ago, I was actually going to college in Israel in 1980, and I was trying to find the repeaters. And I had anybody ever have an IC2AT? You can just raise your hand if you know what I'm talking about. But it had a thumb wheel on the top of it, and for me to find the repeaters around Israel, I was sitting there and like thumbing it, looking for a squelch tail, and then seeing if I could open the thing up. So back then I was like, well, how come there's no worldwide repeater directory? So back in 2010, I had an epiphany that it was time to create one, and I set my programmers at figuring out how to write an Android app, and meanwhile I was figuring out how to get data for a repeater directory, and probably about 3 weeks later we had a prototype, and a week after that we had a product, and we just grew it up from there. So it started out as an Android app, and then we came out with an iPhone app. Some of you might be running our iPhone app. I hope you are. And then 4 years ago, I got a call from DF200. Some of you guys I didn't mention was that we've partnered with many of the radio societies like the ARRL around the world. Some of the bigger ones. Unfortunately, Japan hasn't jumped on board, but the other big ones besides Japan's pretty gigantic, believe it or not. And we've partnered with them to provide a branded repeater directory for their country. And so, in other words, if you open up RFinder, anybody that uses RFinder, you know it shows ARRL here in the States. If you're in their countries, if you're in Germany, it shows Deutsche Amateur Radio Club's logo. If you're in England, it shows the Radio Society of Great Britain, etc. If you're down in the Cayman Islands, it shows the Grand Cayman, the Cayman Islands Amateur Radio Club logo. So we basically created a branded repeater directory that works anywhere on Earth, and recognizes the local radio society. We feel very strongly about radio societies. We donate a lot of money to radio societies every quarter. We actually I just got inducted into the Maxim Society a couple of weeks ago for donating sums of money to the league. So it's worked out pretty well, and I've had a great time doing it. It's been really exciting. And it's taken me all over the world, quite frankly. So anyway, so we came up with these apps, and then DF200, the number 2 at Deutsche Amateur Radio Club, calls me up one day and he says, Bob, you must fix the code plug. And I didn't know what a code plug was. I didn't even know what DMR was at that point, But he said to me, look up DMR, figure out what a code plug is, and figure out how to make them. So I spent from like April till the beginning of July sitting and like pondering this seriously. How do you make a code plug for a DMR radio? And as you know, there's only a few of them that even let you import any data whatsoever. So we're trying to like actually generate code plugs, and they're encrypted and binary, and everyone's got a different format. And sometimes one model Motorola's got a different code plug format from another Motorola. So it was impossible. So sitting at this desk on July 2nd, almost 5 years ago, I came up with this crazy epiphany to make an Android radio. Just said, I'll just make an Android radio. That'll just solve the whole problem. So we set out at that, and I actually found some manufacturers in China that were making what I would call a reference platform because their software was horrid, and their RF modules firmware was pretty hard. So we had to learn how to fix RF module firmware, and how do you make a radio? How do you make a radio that does not need a code plug? So we figured it out. So that's what we have now. And Richie mentioned he's got one. Jim's got one, and this is one in my hand here. So, but it just runs the RFinder app, and if you're familiar with that, the bottom part is the repeater list, and the top part is the radio front panel. And I'll actually show you a better view of that. I actually just today found out I could use TeamViewer. Anybody use TeamViewer? All right. Can you guys see this?
Yes, sir.
Oh, that's cool. I did something right. So anyway, I just found out today that I can share screens with TeamViewer, which is kind of slick. So anyway, so this is what it looks like. You got a frequency display at the top. I call it the FDA, frequency display area. When you touch it, it brings up, for all intents and purposes, the VFO or the radio settings. And in here, you can put in your frequency and talk group and change DMR IDs and stuff like that. Send the parameters to the radio. You can save memories and stuff like that. So let's see. Which one is yours? Ours, rather. KPQ, right? Isn't that a club machine?
Yes.
All right, cool. So if I open up on KPQ, you'll see that all the talk group time slot combinations are already programmed into it. And if I click send to device radio, I can just choose the one I want. So let's say I want to go to Metro. If radio's off, it'll flip it on and basically connect me to that machine. So it's that simple, and you never ever have to program it. So who here likes to make code plugs? Anybody? I know there's a few of you out there, weirdos, but this doesn't require a code plug, and I've tested it all over the world. I just tested it in Mexico last week, and it worked great. So it's also a cell phone. So right now you can see that I'm connected up here to the cell phone network. This one happens to be on T-Mobile. And that's how it gets to the internet. And the internet offers all kinds of things, like for instance, keeping the data up to date in quasi real time on the device. We update the DMR data every night at midnight our time. And then in the morning, literally, if you pull down on the list, if it'll let me, pull down on the list, it'll just refresh the data, including the talk group time slots. So, so we've done a lot with that, and any of you that's written a code plug, you know that doing the research on time slot and talk group time slot combinations is really very difficult. It's very painful, and we made it very easy. Even if you're using a traditional monolithic style radio, and you want to do queries on repeaters as a web version, and in fact you could even do a search along a route. If any of you remember Travel Plus, it's similar to Travel Plus. If I wanted to go, for instance, from Wading River, New York to Xenia, Ohio, 2 meters, 440 FM and DMR, and go via, I don't know, pick a place, Toronto. And I can get the repeater list, and it'll actually show me all those machines along the way. So this is a little bit of an intensive query. It might take a few seconds for it to finish up. So, and you know, we've done some integration with RT. Some of you might use RT systems, and inside of RT you can do queries also. No importing, exporting. You can do a search around a point or along a route. So same kind of thing. Make your query. How far off the road do you want to go? And it'll just, you just copy the ones you want over to the radio and blast it. It takes a couple of minutes. And any of you that's ever attempted to amass a route to program a radio knows how painful that is. And with RFinder, it just takes a few seconds over a route, really anywhere on Earth. So it's kind of cool. Literally, if I wanted to go, for instance, from I'll do something interesting from like no, actually, let's go from Helsinki, Finland, to Cannes, France, and go via Normandy, for instance. Did I spell that wrong? Yep. Then it'll literally find me the machines along that route. So literally anywhere you go, you can literally program a non-DMR radio, you know, conventional FM style radio, no problem, and do it quickly. So that's kind of like a quick overview of RT and routing and stuff like that. I don't want to belabor it and become too much of a sales pitch, but that's what we're doing. You'll notice here we have the talk groups for many of the machines already in the system. And we've been doing something called the talk group documentation project for quite some time. And if anybody's ever, let me see if I can do this. If anybody has ever gone into Radio ID to register their repeaters, we've actually integrated the talk group documentation project into Radio ID. So if I went over to one of these machines and I said, use RFinder to document and edit, this actually lets you edit the talk groups in the repeater. And if anybody has any machines, please, I ask you to, if you could, go into Radio ID and document your machines. We've got probably about 70% of the machines on Earth documented at this point. And we're doing some other things also. We have some spiders that are going out on the web and looking for talk group time slot documentation that lets us know when it finds something, and then we can take a look at it and see if we can figure out how to get it out excuse me, and into the database. And something else we do is that whenever one of our radios, all of our radios, the K1, the M1, the P1, the P2, the B1, any of them receives a good talk group time slot that it can identify absolutely against a DMR ID, then it sends that back to the database. So we get new talk group time slots every day in an automated fashion from our radios, just from our users using the radios. So we've done a lot to help document the talk group time slots, and we don't keep that to ourselves, by the way. We share that with Radio ID. Radio ID shares information with us about talk group time slots, And I think it's so important to share that, that I felt that from day one, that we began to collaborate with Radio ID to make that happen. So if any of you are using RFinder, inside of RFinder, you can, if you see that we're missing any talk group time slots, you can add them directly into the database yourself also and share it with everybody. And it's very important because, a lot of sysops are not documenting their machines in a structured way, if at all. And I think that a lot of you guys probably know what I'm talking about, that if you are taking a look for talk group time slots on a specific machine, you may very well not find anything. And you just have to kind of figure out where it goes from, what is it? Where does it go? Maybe if your radio is capable of promiscuous, take a look at the machine and see what comes up on it. But it's really been very challenging to get that done. But like I said, we're about 3/4 of the way done for Earth. We're getting the talk group time slots documented. You just jump back to the location. If you're using RFinder, and you're not a machine owner, you can actually go into RFinder onto DMR machines, and you as a ham can go in here and modify the talk group time slots. If you know that they're wrong, if some need to be deleted, if some need to be added, any user of RFinder can go in and modify the talk group time slots. So it's really important. I really wanted to talk about this a little bit, and I feel free to ask me any questions about this, but I just think it's so important to make DMR. Am I losing my audio? Did I just lose my audio?
No, you're good.
Okay. All right. I think it's so important, and if you guys see machines that are not documented, please stick them in. You're sharing it with Earth. We don't hold that to internal to the system. So so that's kind of an overview of like the web stuff. Something we've been working for a year and 4 months on, well, 5 months really now, is the ability to do DMR without a hotspot. And I mean without any additional hardware. There's some solutions where you can set up a Raspberry Pi node or things like that, or use DroidStar, for instance, and but the audio quality isn't great. And what we've done was we've created true pure DMR ROIP using the codec, the same codec that the radio is using. So we're using the radio's codec as a we'll call it a codec coprocessor to handle all the encoding and decoding of AMBI. So if we take a look on RFinder here, this is actually a beta. We're on beta 2.7, and if I switch over, let me just switch over to a DMR memory. Maybe ever use 91 Worldwide English? It's pretty much always busy. As you can see, we're starting to get some traffic over here from Ron over here. Oh my God, Ron's in Ridge. How funny is that? Out by me. So if I want to switch over to DMR over IP, it's a matter of hitting a button. and literally a moment later it starts to receive. So right now, this
is hitting pretty hard. Let me know if I actually.
Right now, this device is receiving DMR from Brandmeister Talk Group 91 directly from the network. There is no hotspot involved. If I switch back to RF, just by hitting that IP button at the top, I just toggle back to RF. So we have a seamless toggle between IP and RF. And whatever talk group is on the frequency display area is the one that it'll connect to. We're in the middle of creating a talk group list, so you'll be able to put up to 8 talk groups and monitor 8 talk groups, sort of like promiscuous, but in a structured way. Like you choose the talk groups you want to listen to, and the device will monitor that and give you a quick toggle to switch over to the one that you just heard that you want to actually switch to. So the workflow on the device is really very easy to use. As you can see, I'm just pointing and clicking, and I'm sure Richie and Jim will attest to this. It's very interactive and very, very easy to use. So and it was made by one of your members right here on Long Island. So we feel pretty proud about that. So I guess with that, let's just open it up to questions.
So Bob, let me say first of all, many of the members have not tried DMR, and for a variety of reasons. So I would also point out that this is a 4-watt FM analog HT on 2 meters and 440. The second thing that I would point out is that while my eyesight may be a little more acute than others in terms of a disability, others have difficulty reading that small screen. And I don't know if you can do the demonstration of it as it's set up, but I point out that if you remember now, you have an HT that is an app within a smartphone.
Yep.
And the reason why they call it a smartphone is that you can do a lot of things with it, including enlarging the text as you would on your smartphone, 3 taps, and the text is now large and very easily readable. If you have a question that has to be submitted, there is speak over, so you can speak your answer to a question. And they also have a read over, or whatever it's actually called, where it will read back to you whatever information. Now, it's not fully integrated into the RFinder system because, again, that just takes a lot of things, and I guess there's other priorities right now. But if you think about that,
we're actually making some mods right now. We had a couple of blind users make some requests of us, so we're actually in the middle of making those modifications right now.
And that's the beauty of a smartphone. Whatever that smartphone, that Android is capable of doing, is able to be integrated into the RFinder program. And again, just to unconfuse something, because I have been using it for a while, just remember, RFinder is the program. It's a software program. And it gives you all of the repeaters and all the information and things that you saw Bob do. That information is then integrated into his radio HT. And that's what makes it, ideal. You're traveling around and you simply do a search and you've got all the repeaters automatically.
Sure.
Just switch to whichever one you want and be there.
Yeah, I'm telling you, like when he says that, I'm not kidding. Like, like for instance, I landed at London Heathrow Airport, pulled the radio out, and a GB7 LHR DMR machine or Brandmeister machine was right there at the airport. Literally, click, click, click. Brr, I'm on 91. Boom, that quick. Didn't even have to think about a code plug or anything. I landed in Madrid, drove up to Avila, opened up machines all the way, for 2 hours across Spain. I landed in Ben Gurion in Israel, and there was a machine up on the hill 14 miles over my left shoulder, and just on Rosh Chayan, and just opened the thing up like it was nothing and started driving towards the coast. And then they're all Brandmeister there, so I just quickly switched to the next machine as I was losing it, the one by the coast. Picked that one up, started driving up the coast towards Haifa. There was a machine up in Haifa up on the hill, switched to that one. So it's literally like that simple. It's quite quite astounding how fun it is to not have to think about programming your radio. It just works anywhere you go. It's kind of cool.
Bob, I got a
And
question.
something else Richie mentioned was that, not only is it nice that it has these, accessibility features, and, if I triple click on this, you can see that, it's doing magnification, which I think is what Richie was talking about. But we have a Facebook group, RFinder Android Radio, and I invite you guys all to join it up. And everybody that's got one is on the design team. So somebody will say, "Oh, it'd be really cool if that," and we just make it happen most of the time. Once it doesn't make sense, sometimes people ask for things that don't make sense, but everybody's on the design team, and I don't mean that. I don't take that lightly. I mean, I really mean it. Like, everybody that has one is part of this collaboration of making it better. So it's really a lot of fun. Somebody had a question. I heard somebody.
Bob, I question if you have to program other stuff, like we were talking, public safety or whatnot into it or whatever. Is there actually cable and programming, or is everything done through the screen? How do you?
You don't need no stinking programming cable.
You just program it right on the like a front programming radio.
Yeah. All right. So let's say I went in here and I said, I don't know. Give me a frequency. 467.
Share your screen again,
Share
Bob.
your screen, Bob.
Oh, I'm not sharing. Oh my God. Sorry. That was dumb.
Not since Richie was talking.
There we go. Anyway, I was showing you this before. If you triple tap, you get magnification. That's what Richie was talking about on the accessibility side. Oops. So anyway, let's say I wanted to put in a non-ham frequency. Give me a frequency pair.
470.8375.
And what are we up on that or down? What is it?
That would be up 3 megahertz.
That's it. Now, see over here, I say save to memory. Now I can create a zone.
Typo,
Huh?
typo.
You had 2 4s on the receive side, I think.
Yeah,
Which
okay.
is-
Yeah, well, it's a demo. What can I tell you? Whatever.
Oh, all right. I thought it was real.
No, just kidding. Anyway, so now you can create a zone for whatever. So, like, let's say you're going to call it public safety. Oops. Add the zone. Tell it what talk group and time slot you want on it.
Mm-hmm. And if you needed to program a couple of these units like that, would you be able to transfer between the units?
Yeah, on the website, I'll show you that in a minute, actually. Right now, go with the memories. You can see that PS now shows up. So it's that easy. It's that simple. It's not. And then you can save your memories to the cloud, right? So I'm going to save the memories to the cloud, and now it's in my RFinder account. And if I went over,
So you can edit the frequencies in the RFinder account and then download it to the radio also?
you can actually edit them on. Hold on a minute. Where in the hell did my browser go? Too many screens here.
Someplace.
Huh?
It's there someplace.
Let's try it again. So if we went back to web, you see it's got my credentials in here. manage RFinder Android radio memories.
Right.
Here's all the memories in the radio. So literally, I can go here and now modify. So for instance, we just made that PS one. Here it is, right? So if I want to modify it, I could. And then if I want, I can download this back up to file, and then I can restore it to other radio accounts. And then when they do a restore from cloud, it just shows up. Now, I'm not really set up to demo this for you tonight, but we have a commercial version also. So you can log in as an administrator, literally manage 1,000 radios. And as soon as you commit it, it flows to the radios instantaneously like that. So, that's another option. If you're in a, in a commercial or even in Aries, we would let Aries use it, or, if they wanted to manage a code plug-esque kind of thing on the RFinder devices for a group of people. That's not a problem.
You could actually create an Aries zone, and then you could send everybody's got, for an event, let's say there's a specific group of frequencies you're going to use, you can send it out to that group and add that zone to those radios for that event.
Yep. In fact, something we're doing too is, that share icon, like it looks like a fork, the share icon. We're going to add that to the interface here so that you can actually SMS a frequency to somebody, all the parameters, and when they receive it on their RFinder, if it's an RFinder, it'll say, "Hey, do you want me to change the radio to this frequency?" If it's a regular phone that you're sending to, obviously they're just going to get the parameters in a text. But we have that in play pretty soon.
Excellent idea.
Yep, one of our users threw it out there. I was like, "Hey, that's a good one. Yeah, why not? We'll do that." So it's really a lot of fun. I mean, honestly, like having the privilege of being able to do what I've done with this has been just one of the funnest things I've done in my life. And I've had a great career. I've done some really cool stuff, that's touched a lot of people's lives. And to be able to do this, and you guys may not know this, but I'm a 3rd generation ham. My son's a 4th generation ham. So I've been exposed to this stuff all my life, and just to have the honor and the privilege to make something that people love so much. I mean, like our users, if you've ever been in our Facebook group, our users are like, they're thrilled with the stuff that we do. So sometimes they're mad at me, sometimes they're frustrated, but for the most part, like, they're like, "Wow, holy crap, look what we've done." So, it's really a lot of fun.
If you didn't have people mad at you occasionally, then you aren't doing enough.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Man into RVP. How you doing, Bob? So I came into the meeting late. So this RFinder gets installed on your Android or Apple phone. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, we have an app for that, so to speak, which is a repeater directory, and we think that we're the greatest repeater directory on earth, for good reason. But you can install the repeater directory, which is basically from here downward, from the, I don't know if can you guys see my mouse?
Yeah, I see it.
All right, anyway, the repeater directory on a regular phone would take up the entire screen pretty much. It just detects that it's on a radio and splits up the screen. But yeah, it'll work on an Android, it'll work on an iPhone, and all, the subscription, when you subscribe to it, it works on all platforms. So, the $12.99 a year gives you access on your cell phones, through the web interface, through RT systems. You have access to everything. Yep.
So then when you're traveling, then you take what you have on your phone and you program it to your radio, into your HT.
Generally speaking, I wouldn't do that. I would really use like a PC based programmer like RT.
I have RT systems.
Okay, yeah. So you weren't here earlier, and hold on a minute. Let me just see if I still have it up here. So anyway, so this is RT. So
yeah, I have it. I have it for my Yaesu, my icon.
Yeah, well, if you get the app and subscribe to it, you'll be able to go into RT, for instance, and I showed this earlier, I'll just do another quick one. Let's do something localer. Washington, DC to Orlando. 10 miles off the road, and I want to go via Birmingham, Alabama. And by doing that, by adding, you can add up to 8 waypoints. You can bend the route to go however you want to go. So in other words, like here, we just went out to Birmingham and then down to Orlando. But now if I wanted to run this query, I just say, okay. And it'll take a few moments because this is a very, very complex query. We're probably doing, I don't know, 60, 70 queries right now, and then collating them and getting them in order and blah, blah, blah. A bunch of stuff that happens in the background to make it usable. But if you've ever like tried to gather together the machine information for a route, I'm sure you know how painful it is until now. Cool?
Yeah. So when you were in Israel, you used this to find the repeaters in Israel?
No, in Israel, it was even better. In Israel, I pulled out my RFinder Android radio, which is this thing right here.
Oh, it's a radio guy.
Yeah, we have a radio. Oops. Yeah, anyway. It's a radio, and all I have to do, like, here, I'll just give you an idea.
Oh, it's an HT that has the RFinder built into it.
That's correct. So I'll just give you an idea of what that looked like. Ben Gurion Airport.
Oh shit, not your floodlight cam.
Ben Gurion. Usually you can talk to it. Of course, I'm doing a live demo, so it's not letting me.
Technology's a wonderful thing when it works, right?
Yeah, it normally does.
So I have a question. You said you went to Israel. I'm going to plan on going there in 2022. Did you get a license from the Israeli government?
No, just land and use your radio.
Oh, you don't have to have yet. You don't have to have get an FCC license from
No,
that?
you just say 4 X-ray stroke W2CYK, for instance.
Oh, so I could bring my HT with me there.
Oh yeah, very much so. Yeah.
If I just use my regular HT, you know, I could find the frequencies or program in, go to program it, I guess, before I go.
Well, if you had one of these, you wouldn't have to program anything. You would just pull it out and use it.
Wow. What does those run for?
They're $9.99, and you can get them either from me direct, or you can get them from Gigaparts or HRO.
Does that use a replaceable battery, and what type of charging does it use?
It uses a replaceable battery that looks like looks like this.
Right.
I'll be right back.
And it actually has a drop-in charger also?
Yep, it's got a drop-in charger. We have 2 different kinds. This one here is they both look like this, but one is powered from an AC wool wart, and this one here is actually a quick charge 3.0.
You're sharing your screen. We don't see your camera.
Oh,
It's just in the little speaker view. Stop sharing your screen and we'll be able to see that.
Yeah, I thought you'd be able to see it on the speaker view. All right, hold on. Whoops.
And
Each individual would have to go to speaker view in order for that to happen.
Can you see me now?
See you now. You can see you now, Bob.
All right, guys. All right. So this is what the drop-in looks like. And we have both an AC version of this. We have a DC version of this that'll run on 12 volts. And we have a USB that we just got these, USB Quick Charge 3.0. And this will charge a dead battery in less than an hour and a half.
Does it have, besides having the regular contact, does it have a USB-C on it also?
It has a USB-C, but you can't use it for charging. It's for data only.
Okay.
So it's got a USB-C, and it is waterproof.
Does it have an extra a slot for additional SD micro SD card for memory?
It does, but it has a lot of memory in it. Like I didn't skimp. You know, it's got 64 gigs and 4 gigs. 4 gigs, 64 gigs, which is plenty. We've never had anybody say that they've run out of room. But you do have a slot that you can put an external. A 128 SD up to 128, but we ask that you only format it as portable, because if you don't do portable storage, then the firmware over the air updates won't work properly. But you can do it, but it's not really necessary, quite frankly. Unless you're taking a lot of video. Huh?
Mic for it also, handheld mic.
Hang on, speak to the mic a little more. I'm having a hard time.
A shoulder microphone.
Yeah.
Mic.
You'll get one of these.
All right.
And let's see if I have it handy. I'm not sure if I have it handy or not. I'm working on a prototype right now. I'm actually testing them this week. It's a Bluetooth dongle that hangs off the mic port. That we have an ear loop with a Velcro PTT for your steering wheel, or a regular, Bluetooth hand mic.
You're going to be at the LIMARC Hamfest?
When is it?
June 6th.
June 6th?
Yes.
If I'm in the country, I'll be there.
Richie, you didn't invite him?
We send out flyers, some people read them, some people don't.
Personal information. Come to the Hamfest. Bring your radios.
Dude, I'm like, I'm on such information overload. You have no idea. I talk to 100 people a day. It's like crazy. And, we're having a great time, honestly.
Bob, I don't remember what you had said. The microphone connection, is that the same? Will a Motorola mic work on that connection?
Yeah, it's like a GP328 Plus.
Okay.
And we're just finishing up some mods that will let you manually tell it that there's a mic attached, because we can't detect every mic that we attach to this thing. But you'll be able to put like pretty much any GP328 thinger off of it that you want, which is how we did the Bluetooth. We found that if we tried to use the internal Android Bluetooth, the latency was we got the latency down to 2 seconds, but that wasn't reasonable. So we'll have like an external Bluetooth solution that charges the Bluetooth, by the way, off the mic port, because there is power here.
It looks almost like an APX or Moto Turbo connector.
Yeah, roughly same thing ish. Kind of like.
Kind of, sort of.
I like to think that they're, Motorola just came out with the Ion, so I like to think that they're following us at this point.
I think you have a much better device.
Oh, than the Ion? They're not even close. They are not even close. They're not even close. Oh, you know what? I haven't even showed you this. This is kind of cool. For those of you that are like hard of sight, this is a 7-inch hardened tablet. We're in the middle of developing a 10-inch hardened tablet, but this is a DMR radio, DMR FM radio, point and click. It actually has all the similar guts. It's got the same main board and the same RF module internal to this that the B1 does. So I have some of these if you guys are ever interested.
I'm interested.
These aren't FCC approved though, so they're for evaluation purposes. I'll
evaluate it for you.
Yeah, I actually mount. Some of you guys know I drive an OJ Bronco. Which, by the way, is getting a Cummins diesel shortly.
Nice.
Yeah, but this thing is normally mounted on an articulated arm mount attached to the front seat of the passenger seat. So it's always like right next to me. So it's just ding, 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 ding.
How much is the tablet?
It's just $100 more than the device. It's it's $10.99.
You got my information. Reach out to me.
So, Bob, If it's okay, move on to DMR because, we're on a sea bridge right now and we've been contemplating, partially because of your feelings about it, making a move to Brandmeister. But again, not all of our members are DMR, and perhaps something that you could say would encourage them to get into DMR, but also
Oh, sure.
explaining what DMR is and Brandmeister.
Well, first of all, like if I was going to boil down DMR, I call it a permanent band opening in all directions. I mean, you can literally get on DMR anytime, day or night, and talk to somebody in some weird corner of the planet, which is kind of cool. It seems to be pretty good for emergency services. Also, it seems to be shaping up pretty good for that. And one of the cool things about it is that on a single repeater pair, you can actually have two conversations running simultaneously, and that's pretty slick. So in other words, I can be using talk group 91 on slot 1, and Richie can be using 444 on slot 2, for instance. It's which is the New York Metro for those of you that don't use DMR much. So it's very flexible, and there's two types of networks. One network is very dynamic, and one network is very static. So, and I know you guys are like way too young to remember crystal controlled radios, right? Anybody?
I built one once.
Oh, all right, okay. Anyway, so one network is based on sea bridges, as Richie mentioned, and those are very static. So in other words, I put up a repeater, I say, okay, I'm going to have these talk groups on slot 1 and these talk groups on slot 2, and that's all you can do with it and have a nice day. It's what I'm telling you to do with it. There's another train of thought on that. There's another network called Brandmeister, and for any of you that have DMR hotspots, you probably know what Brandmeister is. It's a network of repeaters, a worldwide network of repeaters that is very dynamic. So I can, as a user, open up any talk group I want on Earth on either time slot. I'm fully empowered to do whatever I want with DMR. Now, you should put your brain to it sometimes. Like if 91 is open on slot 1, you shouldn't be opening up 91 on slot 2. But that takes with a little bit of knowledge and learning, and you learn about these things as time goes on. But some people like a static repeater, and some people like dynamic. Personally, I like dynamic. I think that it's way more flexible. Who here has got a hotspot? Just raise your hand if you have a DMR hotspot, right? So like we have a bunch of people here at DMR hotspots. You know what I'm talking about. The ability to say, I'm going to open up whatever talk group I want, and that's it. And I have the ability to do that, and that's great. And as long as I've created a code plug for my monolithic radio, what's this one? An Anytone. So as long as I created a code plug for my monolithic radio to get on that, or I've put a custom firmware on it that lets me dial up any talk group I want, I can get anywhere I want. It's kind of nice. I look at repeaters that are attached to Brandmeister like hotspots in the sky. Personally, I like those much better. When I'm driving around Europe, for instance, all the machines in Switzerland are on Brandmeister. And I throw the radio on DMR roam, which means that I can change from one repeater to the next, maintain the same talk group time slot, and I can literally go from one end of Switzerland to the other and have a conversation and never have to worry about retelling the radio what talk group time slot I want or knowing what's configured into that machine. I think that that's the way hams like to use radio. And maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I could be wrong. It's kind of like Judaism versus Christianity. Which one's better? I don't know. I like one, you like one, whatever it is, But yeah. I think that the way that we use radio as hams, Brandmeister hands down is the way to go. I think that it gives you a lot of flexibility, And, you know, years ago, before Brandmeister was as good as it is now, I would have said, okay, yeah, maybe we need to do a C bridge for now. But right now, all new machines, I think, should go on, personally, in my humble, crazy opinion, should go on a Brandmeister, because that's where everybody's hotspots are anyway.
Hey, Bob, I got a question.
Yeah, that.
Awful lot of folks, especially here on Long Island, are using digital modes that just aren't DMR. And I'm thinking of the D-Star and similar things. Are there any plans to integrate these different digital modes together? Is it possible to get a digital device that will accommodate all these different modes?
Yeah, well, you know, it's an interesting question, and it really depends on the codec, right? Like, am I able to convert the version of AMBI I'm using on DMR over to the version of AMBI that's being used somewhere else, right? So D-Star uses a very old flavor of AMBI, AMBI 1, and you would need a specific piece of hardware to transcode that from, in other words, convert it from AMBI 1 to pulse-coded modulation to AMBI 2, and then transmit it out. Now, some of the modes are using very similar codecs, like DMR and Fusion are similar, right? So we're actually probably going to throw Fusion over IP into this radio, just because, well, we got the codec already. All we got to do is write an IP, protocol handler. Yeah, all we got to do. So anyway, these things are possible to do, and there are devices that are doing it, like the OpenSpot 3. Anybody have one? Anybody? The OpenSpot 3 is capable of doing transcoding. In other words, to enter in one protocol and go across the network on another one. Possible to do. The Pi Stars. Anybody have a Pi Star? I'm sure you got plenty of them in here. Sorry, should have grabbed the water. Pi Stars are capable of doing cross mode. So in other words, entering in through DMR and going over to the Yaesu network or vice versa. It has some capabilities of doing that, but it really depends on the specific protocol. But there are things being developed. It's starting to come out. I'm going to tell you that DMR is the fastest growing mode by far. D-Star is the fastest shrinking mode. Yaesu is kind of like meandering a little bit along the way. And I can tell you that as the guy that manages the repeater directory, I can see what the growth of the repeaters are. And when I tell you that DMR is exploding, it's no joke. It is exploding. I mean, a year and a half ago, we were at 60,000 users. We're at almost 200,000 users this week worldwide. Yeah, it's really quite astounding. And the number of machines, the number of repeaters is really quite amazing. How fast that they're growing. They're just popping up all over the place. And it's very easy to make one. You can take two radios and a Pi Star controller and turn it into a repeater like pretty quickly, pretty easily. Or take an old analog machine and add a Pi Star to it and turn it into a DMR machine. So they're popping up, and they're not getting, quite frankly, in most cases, aren't getting coordinated. People are just finding a frequency pair and saying, okay, I'm sticking a machine over here. And that's that.
I have a question for you. Two questions. Then.
Go ahead, Richie. If I don't know the answer, I'll make up something that sounds good.
Yeah, all right. I just put up a machine, as you said, on your own. How do you find out about that machine to put it in your directory if it's not coordinated?
What kind of machine is it?
Suppose it's a DMR machine that someone just puts up.
Happens automatically. We'll have it the next day.
Is it? So
happens automatically. We'll have it the next
day.
If
it's not coordinated anywhere, how does it find it?
Well, it's coordinated through radioid.net. Isn't it?
Would have, I guess, maybe not. Who knows? Anyway, all right.
Now, the only time, and I know that I love your naysaying, quite frankly, I love it. every time you got something for me, which I appreciate. But for the most part, people are registering their machines on radio ID.
All right.
Okay, so as soon as they register it on radio ID, we get it in. I'll get it in tonight's load at midnight.
All right, second question now, Brandmeister repeater.
Yeah.
How does it know if you basically just put an IP address in and it gets all the talk group, all the 1,000 Brandmeister talk groups, correct?
Yeah, it's not the same paradigm that you're thinking of. But
How does it know which go on talk group time slot 1 and which go on time slot 2?
well, okay, that's an interesting question. All right, first of all, Brandmeister has lots and lots of official talk groups. However, if you dial up any number that doesn't exist, it'll open up that talk group. And if you tell somebody, hey, I'm on whatever, 36.422, they'll find you on 36.422, even though it's not a published talk group. You can create talk groups on the fly. It's not a problem. Something that we do every night is we mine all of the masters on Brandmeister, and we pull down all of the statically configured talk groups. Because on Brandmeister, you can say, you know what, open up 91 on slot 1 and leave it up. Okay, you can do that. So we mine all those out of all the different masters around the world from Brandmeister every night. And we bring that into the database and we associate that data against specific DMR ID, repeaters. Okay, so that's how we do it. We do it very dynamically, or it's quasi real time. We're not quite there. We'll probably go real time in the next year. In other words, something comes up, it'll be in the database immediately. Not quite there yet, but anything that happened today shows up by tomorrow morning in the directory. That's how we do it. Does that answer your question? I don't know.
No, that wasn't the question I really meant. I have a DMR repeater now. It's on DMR Mark. If I switch it over to Brandmeister, I don't have to put it, normally the C bridge gets configured by Bernie, and Bernie sends a file to me, and that determines what talk groups are on my repeater.
No,
right?
You just point the repeater at a Brandmeister. First of all, you go in. You point the repeater at
the IP address.
One of the masters. Let's say you pointed at US 3102, right?
Right. Yeah.
As soon as you point that, the whole network now knows that that machine exists. But you don't have to configure any talk groups per se, because a user can say, you know what, I want to use New York Metro. Well, most of you know that as 444 on DMR Mark, but it has an equivalent number on Brandmeister 31362. So I'll just bring up 31362 on my radio and key it, and I'm connected. That's it.
I have to determine whether that goes on time slot 1 and time slot 2 on my repeater.
If you want to, you can.
Otherwise, it's
or you can leave it up to the users to choose it. It's dynamic. You can open up any talk group on any time slot, anytime you want. There's no limitations. But let's say you said, what's the LIMARC group? 73, 70, or 88, what is it, 7388?
7388.
All right. So, let's say...
That's on DMR Mark.
Huh?
That's on DMR Mark. It's 31662, I believe.
Okay, great. So let's say you said on that you wanted to open up 31662, you said?
Something like that. Yeah.
Okay. Let's say you wanted to go, I can actually show it to you. You want to see it? I'll just show it to you. It's really easy. Let me share the screen off. So let's say I went to Brandmeister.network. And I logged in. All right, so now I'm in the portal. So now here's my hotspots / repeaters. Okay, so you know that repeaters are 7-digit, right? Or 6-digit rather. Oh, I got my repeater down, but I can still show this to you. That's all right. Let's say I wanted to tell this one. Actually, you know what? Let me pick a different one. So it looks more like a repeater. Yeah, this one I think is the right one. All right, yeah. So, see, I have 2 slots on this one. You see this? Can you guys see this? Can you
Yeah.
see this, Jerry?
Yeah, I see it, yeah.
All right, so see on slot 1, I have talk group 91 configured on slot 1. I have New York Metro, the RFinder group, and by the way, this one here, 42555, is all the analog repeaters in Israel tied together. 42555. So I have this configured already on this particular machine, and that's what you would do. Like, you don't have to call somebody that owns a C bridge. You log in and you say, well, you know, I'd really like, you know, the LIMARC group 31662 or whatever it is. I would like it on slot 2. So 31662. Look, that's it. Done. So now that's configured. Oh, look, it knew what it was. Nice.
Oh, it came out right.
Yep. So anyway, so it's that simple. Like, and you can dynamically reconfigure them if you're in a situation where you want to have, you know, a special group or a special event or blah, blah, blah. It's easy enough. You go in and 2 seconds later, it's configured. And if I want to remove one, it's just as easy. Goodbye.
Hey, Bob.
But now,
So I go into that page and I'll pick a couple of talk groups, assign them statically. I'll put my radio on promiscuous mode, and anyone that comes up, I'll hear it. And I guess with the Anytone, I can actually hit star, and I'll be able to talk back on that group.
Yep.
now,
Yeah, we have
Bob,
the same thing on the RFinder. Like, we actually invented that concept of being able to go into promiscuous and then switch out of it quickly. We have a promiscuous button that when you hit prom, it changes to switch. And when you see the one you want, you just hit switch and it flops it over. But yeah, that's how it works. Pretty much.
Unfortunately, on the Anytone, it's just temporary, and then it drops it, and you have to do something else to save it into a zone. So it's not that clean. But, you know, in other words, if they're talking and you hit the star and then you transmit, you'll be on that talk group. But I think you have to hit the star each time they talk to maintain that connection.
No, you would, like on an RFinder, you would just hit the frequency display area and just say save to memory.
Yeah, it's a lot better. That's nice.
Yeah, you know what my mom says?
She says you finally did something right. You always tell me that. You finally did something right.
You finally did something right.
hey, Bob,
Yeah.
I know next to nothing about DMR. I'm curious if repeater 1 is set up with a talk group in slot 2 and another repeater that wants to be able to talk to it, do they have to also put it in slot 2, or could they have it in slot 1?
No, that's irrelevant. It's irrelevant. In fact, I was showing you earlier. Were you here earlier when I was flipping between IP and RF on the B1?
My eyes are bad, so it scooted by so fast I
All
wasn't
right.
following.
Well, if I brought this up here and I said, fire it up. Let's say I had time slot 2 talk group 91 on this particular. I've got an old open spot 1 on my desk that I use for testing. So that one normally uses time slot 2. But if I wanted to switch over to IP has no slots. It's not relevant. All I have to do is hit a button and I switch to IP. So it doesn't matter. Like, you might be on a hotspot that only has slot 2, in other words, a simplex hotspot, same frequency in and out, right? And that may be on slot 2, but you might be talking to somebody on slot 1 on a repeater on the other side of Earth.
Yeah, and how coincidental is this? You pulled that up, and just now, the last talk before it just flipped was someone named Harry in the UK.
Well, that happens. I told you it's a permanent band opening in all directions, didn't I?
Yep.
That's what DMR is. It's permanent band opening in all directions. Like you never, I'll be driving along in the morning and talk to somebody in Seoul, South Korea that just got home from work. Yeah, it's like.
Of course, 99% of the transmission is going over the internet, though, isn't it?
Yeah, the entry point, the exit point generally is on RF until what we've just created here, where it's capable of going straight IP.
So you had to put the Brandmeister API key in to get this functionality on the page, right? I think I had to do that.
To do what? To get IP going? No, you have to use your hotspot password on these devices to do it.
Yeah, the hotspot has password, but then there's an API that you add. Oh no, on the hotspot itself, on the hotspot software, I can do this.
No, you're talking about the hotspot software. You can raise and drop talk groups.
I can do all this. There's Brandmeister will give you an API.
Yeah.
Key.
We're actually thinking about throwing that into the
and then
app.
Your own software. Instead of going to their site, you can do it locally on your hotspot software, and it talks to Brandmeister, but you got to set that up extra on the hotspot software.
Yeah, we're thinking about doing that, like adding those functions to this, but somebody already wrote that app, the Brandmeister tool. So I don't know. It's a lot of work for me to go through to I don't know. Maybe I will. Maybe I'll put a couple of functions in here, like drop all calls or something. I don't know.
4000.
Yeah, basically emulate a 4000.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times you'll be on 91 and there'll be so much traffic on 91, you don't have a moment to sneak in a 4000 to drop it. So the API is nice for doing that. Very nice. So,
Bob, do you talk to networks other than Brandmeister, such as TGIF?
well, yeah, that's actually an interesting question. I know that some people are religiously affiliated with TGIF, and that's fine. Our radios, obviously on the RF side, support TGIF machines. I had a meeting with Ty. You know who Ty is? Ty Weaver?
KG5 RKI?
Right, yeah. So Ty and I know each other. He and I had a friendly conversation yesterday, and we're working out the strategy for putting OpenDMR terminal protocol into the TGIF servers so that we can have radio over IP direct from the devices into TGIF. So yeah, we're working on it. Not there yet, but it works with the hotspots.
Okay, will you have the...
hotspots? And we ever see one of these?
That's your hotspot.
Yeah, this is the one that we made. This is an interesting device. If you want one, I have some refurbs actually this week. Just got parts to fix. I've got a couple around here that need to be fixed, but
Is that simplex or duplex?
this is a dual slot duplex hotspot that has its own battery in it. So, literally, it's the size of a cigarette pack. Stick it in your pocket, and I use the Wi-Fi hotspot off of the B1 to on-ramp this onto the internet. So works fine, works perfectly. Those of you that know me know that I'm always coming up with something weird, but this is a prototype. I'm waiting for the actual functioning prototype, but this is the new hotspot. This is going to be called the HCP Cubed, and it's going to be a 14,500 milliamp hour battery bank, and also a MMDVM hotspot that has its own LTE transceiver in it. How cool is that?
So it's going to be on the cell network.
Yep. So the reason why I call it HCP Cubed is because internet, Wi-Fi hotspot, MM multi-mode digital voice modem, and battery bank, all in one device. So it's on the way here. You ever hear a jumbo spot?
That's going to be a big seller, I think.
I think it's going to be a killer.
Yeah.
Anybody hear Jumbo Spot?
Yes.
Jumbo, the guy that made the Jumbo Spot, he and I partnered up, and I'm coming up with crazy ideas and saying, okay, make this. And he just finished making the prototype of that. I've been working with an ergonomics guy from Pakistan to make the case design and all the standoffs and crap. And we're going to start manufacturing those shortly. So whatever, I'm having fun making stuff.
Sounds like you're very enthusiastic about this stuff.
Well, what the hell, man? Might as well have a great time doing it. This is fun. The funnest job I've ever had, and I've had some fun ones. This is really fun.
Hey, Bob, in terms of support, I know you guys were considering an alternate forum to the Facebook group. Where does that stand?
Haven't figured it out yet. It's really a challenge. Was that Gary in the background?
Yes.
Hey,
yes.
Gary. Gary has one of our original old M1s, and I'm going to try and yank it out of his hand because he's got the much coveted green model. We only had 6 of those made, but we're trying to figure out a good platform to get people that aren't on Facebook. I mean, for the most part, almost everybody, I tell people, make a fake account on Facebook. Just make a fake account so you can log into all the amateur radio groups. There's a lot of groups out there. You know, but some people don't want to go on Facebook, and I don't blame you, believe me. If I didn't have a choice, I have no choice. I have to get on Facebook. So, but I'd rather not be on it personally. But whatever, it does its function and it gets people together, and you know, it's a really good collaboration platform. A group is a great collaboration platform. But we're trying to come up with something else.
Groups.io seems to work well.
I know, I've looked at that. It's not quite what I'm looking for. We're not quite there yet.
By the way,
Get a hold of Google and maybe they'll make your modifications for you.
Yeah, everybody's not me.
by the way, for the first hour of the meeting, Jonathan Taylor was online. He joined us, Echolink creator. And,
Oh,
you know,
that's cool.
I was chatting with him on the private chat. So he knows you, Bob. He says he's spoken with you.
Oh yeah, actually, like he and I, years ago, he and I collaborated on something. I think it was the first time really that 2 amateur radio apps collaborated with one another and shared functionality between the 2. So we made it so that if you see an Echolink node in the repeater directory, that you can just touch it and then it automatically flips over to Echolink. And so he made something called an intent for me so that I could go and reach into the Echolink app and bring it up.
Yeah, he wrote a script for us so that we could break in. If everybody's hotkeying fast and everything, you can't get in from Echolink. You go in the chat of Echolink, you type the word break, and it'll enunciate over the repeater, right over the guy who's talking, your call, so you know somebody's trying to get in. So that's cool too.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. He's very cooperative, and he made a great platform. You know, in its time, it was really quite something. You know, so.
Yeah, he had to jump into another meeting, but he was on for about an hour and a half. I think he caught the beginning of your talk.
Oh, that's cool. I'm sorry I didn't know he was here, so I could have said hello. Because he was very cooperative with me on my crazy ideas. And then, you know, he added the ability to map a second PTT button so that we could use our second PTT button on the device to key Echolink. So it was really, really nice that he worked with me on that stuff. I wish everybody was that cooperative. He really was great.
He's an altruist. He's fantastic, great guy.
Yep. No, that's really cool. As you know, I'm not, but whatever.
That's all right.
Grandpa said to me, if you ever figure something out, did you know my grandfather?
He was a ham, I heard.
Yeah. Told me, if you ever figure something out, don't slow down, turn it into something. So this is Grandpa's mandate. It's nice to see you, Lou. I haven't seen you in a dog's age.
I know. We gotta talk. We gotta talk.
I got some ideas for you. I got some ideas.
We did a project that the club sponsored. You know, my Green Sky thing. We did something with time delay of arrival of signal. You know, the actual speed of light stuff using a MATLAB and everything, and it worked. We did some tests out in the field, and it worked. So, you know, we didn't deploy it, but I can fill you in on some of that stuff
That's
too.
awesome. I'd love to hear about it. That's really cool stuff. It's really, really cool stuff. So, I see
Anyone
Gary,
have any additional questions for
I see
Bob?
Gary sitting in front of that crazy console he's got over there.
Anyone with
Like-
questions for
like-
Bob?
It's like the neatest ham shack on earth.
Yeah, this is Ed, K2EPM. I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I saw you at a LIMARC Hamfest years ago when you first introduced your unit. And
You the one where the guy was screaming at me?
yeah. And so the next year,
He was screaming at me, "That's not possible. You can't do that." I'm like,
I remember that. I came the next year with a pocket full of money and you weren't there.
ah,
But then I procrastinated, and here I am all these years later, and I still don't have one. My question is, and it's a little bit of an uncomfortable subject, beyond you, what kind of support do you have?
oh, we
Let me
have,
put it this way. Suppose you had a heart attack. Do all the people who have the units now have a brick if there's no one to follow through with the updates?
no, we're a real corporation. I have people behind me. I've got an executive team. I have programmers. I have a programming team, and my son, comma, W2EEO, comma, is fully up to speed on everything.
Okay, again, I hope it wasn't an uncomfortable question, but
No, Ed, no, you know what? Honestly, if you guys threw me softballs, what would be the point, you know? So it's all right.
So when's the IPO?
I'm not allowed to talk about anything like that.
Hey, Bob, ask Ed if he's still got the pocket full of money and make him an offer.
Ed, why don't you hit me up?
well, that pocket's been spent probably on stuff not for me. But yeah, I'll hit you up.
That's good. You're gonna have a great time with it. Honestly, I can tell you with a straight face, it is a blast to use. Seriously.
And don't forget, it's a smartphone. There's a lot of integration that you can bring in and a lot of programs on the smartphone that you can run, plus a telephone, particularly if you can find an inexpensive phone service to use it as your backup second phone. It's great.
Yep. If you're looking for one of our crazy hotspots, we got them at Gigaparts, and you can grab one over there too. I have some, but yeah, they work great. Dual slot in your pocket. You know, if you didn't want to use a B1.
All right, one more time. Anybody with any other questions for Bob?
You can ask me anything you want. Just keep them coming. I didn't plan anything the rest of the night, so.
I know, but when I ask you a lot of questions, you usually just suddenly take a vacation to Mexico, whatever. But no, one of the things that
I had to go to Mexico after answering your questions.
Yeah, I know. You needed the rest. But again, as I said, folks, listen, I'm visually handicapped. When I first looked at it, I said, there's no way I can read that screen. But once I understood that it's an integration, and see, don't call it an HD with RFinder. It's a smartphone. It's got all the capabilities of a smartphone. And again, as Bob said, he's integrating more things into it. But the fact that I can enlarge the screen, that I can talk my answers, that I can have it read to me if that's what I choose to have done, that just makes it a usable item for me, which would not have been if it was just a basic HT.
And so I have a question, if it's okay. I do long distance driving, and one of the things I want to be able to do is use this E1. Sounds like the right solution to stay, connected. But I guess the question is, is, do I stay connected through IP via the cell phone service, or do I use RF to repeaters and will do it dynamically so I don't have to touch the radio and play with the radio to keep the conversation going if I'm in a talk group, for example?
Both. I mean, it's a one-button switch between RF and IP. So let's say you're on a Brandmeister machine, you're driving along and you lose that machine. If you hit the IP button, it's just going to switch it over to IP on the same talk group, and you keep going. And by the way, you don't want one of these in the car. These are really great in the car.
I need to keep my eyes on the road, though.
Yeah, but it just off to the side, you know.
I want to try one of those. You got to get in touch with me.
Just call me tomorrow.
Your number's not in the chat. What's your number?
All right, that's good on SMS, calling, WhatsApp, Signal, Telegram. You can pretty much get me on any platform imaginable with that.
All right.
And if you're on
And
Facebook,
Bob, the other thing-
if you're on Facebook, please join the RFinder Android radio group and have a look at what we got going on. It's really, really cool. Great bunch of people. What were we going to say?
Bob, the other thing that I'm not sure that came across is that it's got the built-in GPS. So
yeah.
whether you're connected to Wi-Fi or not, wherever you are, when you search for the repeaters, it's going to come down to you.
It knows where they are. And even if you don't have internet service, you have a resident copy of the repeater directory for the continent you're on. So, you know, like literally you can preload it for Europe. Let's say you're getting on a flight for Europe, you preload it for Europe. And when you land, you're good to go, whether you have internet or not. Sorry, Martin, did you try to say something?
No, I'm just saving your information. You are going to get a call from me if you don't call me first.
Nice.
All right, then. Harry, you want to conclude?
Anybody else?
I'd like to thank Bob for a very interesting talk on a myriad number of subjects, all interrelated. And I hope everybody else enjoyed it as much as I did.
And of course, we wish you a happy birthday.
Thank
tomorrow.
you very much, Richie. Thank you very much.
And
Do I look,
now we'll,
do I look 59?
well, we are an older group as it goes, you know.
Speak for yourself. I'm
So-
getting younger every day, man.
It's
This
those
is-
radio waves.
Yeah, but you don't want to
affecting the
carry
skin,
that
you know?
to excess, Bob, because
Why
then
not?
you get to be an infant.
Oh, I'm not
All
gonna
right, so-
but I'm having a great time being in my 30s right now. So